Okay, Michael, so 3 things that I want to bring up.
I'm ready.
Number 1, have you seen how many subscribers we have?
No, I'm just going to go check that out right now because I'm assuming it is... I'm assuming we've lost them all because people hated our take on The Lion King.
Yeah.
Is it reached the triple digits? It's reached the triple digits! We've got 100.
We reached 100, and I didn't know we were going to do it before this podcast, but we have. But anyway, I was going to bring it up because we actually have more subscribers than videos, which I think is a big landmark.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
Big achievement.
We get that now. We're officially on +1 subscriber. I mean, more than +1 subscriber per video.
Yeah, perfect. So thank you for everyone who listens to our inane, off the top of our head research and, analysis of movies. Thank you. Yeah. Second thing, the Cats trailer.
Oh, okay, so I heard about... I mean, I haven't seen the trailer, I should say. So.
Well, the trailer is very weird. I saw somebody actually set the trailer to the Us soundtrack, like the background of Us, and it works so well. It made it look so creepy. I mean, it is already quite creepy. Like,
is it people in cat uniforms?
No, it's CGI. CGI cat fur.
Sure. So the furries, is this? I mean, are the cats hot?
This is furry heaven, basically.
Yeah.
So that's something. And my third bit of news is that Marvel has released its Phase 4 lineup. Black Widow, Eternals, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and Thor Love and Thunder. And that will take place between May 2020 and November the 5th, 2021.
They really are just comic booking this up to they're taking the comic bookness up to 11.
Yep.
With these titles, yeah. I mean, I tell you what, everyone was really sure, like, that they closed the book on a Black Widow solo film, what with her dying and everything. Spoilers for that film that you should have seen if you cared about it at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's about to become the most highest grossing movie in history. So I'm guessing spoilers are a bit irrelevant. But also, Michael, I forgot to mention, they're also releasing some series on Disney+. So Disney+, this is going to be the rival to Netflix, I'm guessing. I don't know when it's going to come out, but there will be a series on The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. There will be a series on WandaVision. There will be a series on Loki. There will be a series titled What If as well. I don't know what that refers to, but there will also be a series on Hawkeye.
Just to clarify, WandaVision is a cross between Joy Division and One Direction. Right?
I see. So yeah, Marvel are really going to be pumping it out. They ain't slowing down. So we've got plenty of more movies to review, and we should be excited about that.
Yeah. They don't slow up, they grow up. And when they look at you, they throw up.
Okay, let's get into Pulp Fiction.
Hello and welcome to Select and Reflect, the movie review podcast where we look at films that have come out relatively recently at the cinema and see if they still hold up upon a second watch. I'm your host Michael, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Luke, and this week we are celebrating the 25th anniversary of Pulp Fiction plus the release of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood by looking at a film that was released or made once upon a time in Hollywood called Pulp Fiction. So Luke, why don't you tell us a thing or two about Pulp Fiction?
Yes, Michael, certainly. And obviously, like you said, we're doing Pulp Fiction because of its 25-year anniversary, but also, which you forgot to mention, the director is the same as the director of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So that is why we're doing it. Yeah, and that man is Quentin Tarantino. Quite a famous director. Anyway, Pulp Fiction is a 1994 American crime film written and directed by Quentin Tarantino, who conceived it with Roger Avery. It stars John Travolta, Samuel L. Jackson, Bruce Willis, Tim Roth, Ving Rhames, and Uma Thurman. It tells several stories of criminal Los Angeles... Wait.
Way to go, Luke.
No, that's what it says. It says it tells several stories of criminal Los Angeles. That's literally what it says on the Wikipedia page. I didn't misread that.
You were thinking it was going to say criminal Los Angeles something 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 though, right?
Yeah,
like
I was.
You thought it was going somewhere else, and then that's why it sounded bad, because... okay, got you.
Okay, yeah, I know. I was just expecting more, but yeah, it's just criminals in Los Angeles doing shit. The film refers to the pulp magazines and hard-boiled crime novels popular during the mid-20th century, known for their graphic violence and punchy dialogue, which Tarantino loves, obviously, more than anyone in the world, both of those things.
It's true, yeah.
It was released on October the 14th, 1994, in the United States, and Michael, can you guess the budget for Pulp Fiction?
I Not much, like 8 million.
Yeah, exactly. Well done.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, wait, yeah, you got that spot on. 8 to 8.5, but obviously I'm going to give you that. Well done. You didn't look at this before, did you?
No, I honestly didn't. Like, I was, I had my thought process. I was like, well, it can't have been. No, yeah, there is actually one recently which I did look up, but the good news is I've completely forgotten it. And also, I think it was for a film we're doing quite a bit in the future. So I didn't look it up on purpose. Basically, I went on Wikipedia to look up the film and I saw details, but I can't even remember what the film was or what the numbers were. So don't worry, Luke. Although maybe at some point in the future, if I get it spot on again, like maybe it's a subconscious thing. I mean, I'm not going to pretend I don't see the budget and stuff. I just try not to pay attention to it. Box office.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
See, I'll probably prove that I haven't got it right here. Although I tell you what, if I do get it right, then that's going to really threaten my integrity because people are going to think that I am lying about having got it perfectly. I mean, surely it didn't make like loads because like it did 340 million?
214. So
okay, that's
quite
good.
a bit
If anything, I was going to go higher. So yeah,
all right,
which is good.
This is a weird movie because it was a cult hit and
More like a Pulp hit.
Yeah, there we go. And it also grossed a lot of money. Like it's a weird combination. And obviously, it was a major critical and commercial success, and it was nominated for 7 Oscars, including Best Picture. And it actually won Best Original Screenplay and earned John Travolta, Samuel L. Jackson, and Uma Thurman Academy Award nominations and revitalised or elevated their careers, which we will get into. It also had a sweeping effect on independent cinema as well, because this movie, technically, I was looking on Wikipedia, counts as an indie movie. I'm not sure how, really, because I don't know if indie movies generally have a budget of $8 million, and that was back in 1994, so the equivalent today would be like 16 million, something like that. I'm just guessing there, but that would be my prediction. So, I mean, I don't know. What do you think this should count as an independent movie?
I mean, I don't know. I guess it really depends on like some factors behind the scenes too. Like, were there big studio executives involved, or was it just old Quentin with his little team of close confidants?
Well, it was picked up by Miramax. That's the thing.
Yeah,
it was distributed by Miramax. So I don't know, man. I don't know. Like,
I don't know enough about these things. I'm not enough of a hipster to know really what it takes for something to be indie. But if it was a band, I could tell you that it was indie because they'd wear suspenders and bow ties and.
Okay. Well, I'll just say, by the way, it was the Pulp Fiction. Just to point to context how good it was. It was the top grossing film at the box office in its first weekend. It beat out The Specialist, which was Sylvester Stallone's movie, and it was The Specialist was playing at twice as many theatres, but yet Pulp Fiction still beat it, showing immediately the amount of enthusiasm people had for this movie. Against its budget of $8.5 million and about $10 million in marketing costs, Pulp Fiction wound up grossing $107.93 million at the US box office, making it the first indie film to pass $100 million. So there you go. It's technically counts as an indie movie, and it is certainly one of the most successful indie movies if you are counting it as that in history.
But the question is, Luke, did you like it?
Did I like this movie? Yes, I did.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I also like this movie.
All right, good. So that's it.
Yeah. All right. But no matter how much we liked a movie, we always have nitpicks, don't we, Luke?
We always do.
How many nitpicks have you got?
I've got 1.
I've got 4.
Oh my god! I was expecting like 0 from you.
Yeah, well, I don't know. What's your 1?
Just when Ving Rhames meets Bruce Willis, coincidence thing, And I
got you.
I do like how it's acknowledged as a coincidence, like it's understood by both characters. It's like, oh shit, how did this happen? But still, why does Ving Rhames just look at Bruce Willis?
Well, you know what happened, okay? So he was there at Krusty Burger and he wanted to get some donuts. So he was walking along with his donuts and then Snake saw him and drove into him. Anyway, so my 4 are, number 1, not only is that Bible verse fake, it's not a real Bible verse, but it's also way too long to be an individual Bible verse. It's like 4 sentences long. And there is the longest Bible verse, but I think even the longest Bible verse isn't as long as the Samuel L. Jackson's thing. It would have made much more sense if he would have. I mean, to be honest, I don't know why he made up a Bible verse. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be like a thing on Samuel L. Jackson's character. And by the way, I'm not surprised that you didn't know it was a made up Bible verse. But yeah, I don't know if that's supposed to be.
No, I had no idea.
In this universe, do they have a fake Bible, or does Samuel L. Jackson just make up a Bible verse? I don't know. But anyway, the important thing is that it's a fake Bible verse, number one, and number two, if you don't count that as a nitpick, it's also too long to be a believable Bible verse. Now, number two, the toaster was set to cook the Pop-Tarts so much that they would set off a fire alarm or a smoke alarm, which is, I don't know why you would have your toaster set to that setting. Surely, a toaster is set to a certain setting. If your toaster's popping up things already smoking and burnt, then you probably need to, sort yourself out. Number three, it's pretty dumb that Bruce Willis is just able to break the ropes when he's tied up, because, usually in a film, if somebody's, captured and they're bound and something like that, there's a clever way they escape. Of course, in Avengers, they do a flip onto a guy, thus breaking the chair. But, I'm not saying he had to do that, but all he literally did was go and break it. And you just think, well, that's not, basically, it's not
Maybe
really...
it's a lousy chair.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. It's not really on Bruce Willis, so I just feel like, Bruce Willis, it was kind of lucky. It's kind of a luck thing that basically he just happened to be held captive in, one of the worst chairs ever. And I don't know, you can imagine he'll be the kind of guy who keeps a knife on him or something, but no. Anyway, and final one, this one's probably my worst one, so, but I'm not going to have to represent Marvin, the guy who gets shot in the face.
Yes.
Not related to the fact he gets shot in the face. In fact, actually, I'm not even thinking of the right guy. The guy who's hiding in the bathroom and then he jumps out of the gun and tries to shoot everyone.
Yeah.
He really should have jumped out sooner, because he basically waited until they went distracted. If I was him, I'd think, okay, they're distracted now. They're, quoting a little Bible verse, so I'm going to jump out.
Okay. So, Michael, thank you for those nitpicks. Now, as for the plot occurs out of chronological order. The film is self-referential from its opening moments, beginning with a title card that gives 2 dictionary definitions of pulp. Considerable screen time is devoted to monologues and casual conversations with eclectic dialogue revealing each character's perspectives on several subjects. The film features an ironic combination of humour and strong violence. So there you go. That is what this movie is. As I said before, when I failed to speak correctly, it tells the stories of criminal Los Angeles. And yeah, it's hard to pinpoint what this movie is exactly about, but
yeah,
it is.
It's also hard not to reference 22 short stories about Springfield.
That's what I thought as well. Yeah, I mean, obviously, maybe the writers of 22 short stories of Springfield got their idea from this movie. Obviously, there's a reference to Pulp Fiction in that movie with Chief Wiggum and Snake and Herman.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of suspect that they had the idea and then they realised that what they were doing was similar. They were like, hey, let's do a series of short stories. And they were like, hey, this is similar to Pulp Fiction. And then that gave them the idea to reference it. That would be my guess, but, what do I know? I'm just an idiot, aren't I, Luke?
I guess so. So, Michael, I guess we have to start then by just going through the structure of it, because... Yeah, this... I'll just explain. Pulp Fiction's narrative, obviously, is told out of chronological order and follows 3 main interrelated stories. Mob contract killer Vincent Vega is the protagonist of the first story. Prizefighter Butch Coolidge is the protagonist of the second, and Vincent's partner Jules Winfield is the protagonist of the third. The film begins with the diner hold-up staged by a couple, then moves on to Vincent, Jules and Butch. It finally returns to where it began, in the diner. There are a total of 7 narrative sequences. The 3 primary storylines are preceded by intertitles, which are Prologue, The Diner, Vincent Vega and Marcellus Wallace's wife, The Gold Watch, The Bonnie Situation, and then The Diner at the end again. If the 7 sequences were ordered chronologically, it would be 4, 2, 6, 1, 7, 4, 3, 5, and sequences 1 7 overlap, obviously, and are presented from different points of view, as do sequences 2 to 6. According to Philip Parker, the structural form is an episodic narrative, with circular events adding a beginning and end and allowing references to elements of each separate episode to be made throughout the narrative. Other analysts describe the structure as a circular narrative. So there you have it. You got any thoughts on that? On the narrative structure?
The first thing I wanted to say is that I feel like, and you kind of went through your list of how the sequences would be ordered if it was in chronological order quite quickly,
yes.
But the impression I got is that if you ignore the prologue, then essentially most of the film is in chronological order because basically you have, they go to see Marvin or whatever. Then he goes out and takes the woman for a drink, and then he meets Butch, and then then Butch's stuff happens, and that all is kind of happening in chronological order until it then jumps back. Is that correct? Is it correct to say that it's kind of the first two sequences are pretty much in chronological order, and then it jumps back in the third sequence?
So what do you mean?
Sorry, when I say first two, I mean like the first kind. I'm ignoring the prologues and the epilogues. So obviously we'll accept the prologue and the epilogue are kind of just their own little loop. But so basically from the moment where they're talking about McDonald's in France and all that stuff up until we then jump back to the guy with the gun in the place. Is all of that in chronological order?
Which guy with the gun?
The guy with the gun. Yeah, that was the worst description now. The guy with the gun in the bathroom who fails to kill.
You mean John Travolta? No.
The guy in the gun in the bathroom who fails to kill Jules and Vincent.
Oh, him. Oh, yeah.
So basically the beginning of the kind of third of Jules' story. So it's basically what I'm saying is I get the impression that Vincent and Vinny, is it Vinny? Vinny's better. Vinny and Butch's stories pretty much follow on from each other chronologically.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yeah. So when they're discussing the Royale with cheese and all that, that is number 2 in the chronological order.
Yeah, got you. Okay.
Yeah. So again, that is, and obviously then when Jules has this revelation, about the miracle of not being shot and all that, that's number 3. So it is that.
You've got to have an opinion.
That is pretty much the start of the chronological element, and I'll get on to talking about that in more detail. But I'll just say it from Tarantino's perspective. Why did he do this? Why did he have a narrative structure like this? I think if it's not linear, you're not really trying to figure out the story or what is happening. You're just like going with it, going with the flow. The fact that there is no ending either obviously lends it what did he say in that analysis? He said it's a circular narrative, and obviously with no ending, that helps in that. Like there's not any story, so you're just literally enjoying it. It's not a traditional film, so you're not really bothered about what's going on in chronological order. And so that's one thing, and I think that's good for Tarantino because he generally, I think, he wants his audiences to be entertained and immersed in the movie. And I guess this movie, if I had to use a word to describe it, it would probably be like swashbuckling. Would you agree? That's kind of what I would agree. Depending on, you might want to elaborate on what you mean by swashbuckling, but it sounds like a good term. I just mean it's like crazy and fast paced, and that format allows Tarantino to do that. Like, be it make a movie that's crazy and fast paced. It allows him to do that to the fullest extent because of that is his style. He likes to do that. So you're zipping around the place, just a load of entertaining scenes. You don't have to worry about chronological order or what the story is or what's happening. You're just enjoying yourself. And so I think that's why he went with this. Or one of the reasons, obviously, maybe another was he just wanted to do something different. But that's one of the reasons why he decided to go with this different formula in terms of narrative structure.
I think one of the other interesting things, I mean, I've probably got 3 things to say about this in total, and I've said my first thing already, but the second major thing that I kind of think about is the fact that this film, in a way, like, the one thing that stands out to me is Vincent's death in the, 5th narrative thing, the Gold Watch. The reason why that I think is kind of interesting is because it's like, then that's sort of the one thing which gives you real narrative whiplash, not necessarily in a bad way, but it's like, because suddenly then you're like, oh wait, now he's alive again. We just saw him die, and now he's alive again. And I think that's kind of interesting, especially if you look at kind of the context. And I think that possibly adds something to the final kind of narrative of the film, with them talking about the idea of divine intervention and the idea of some kind of purpose, and Jules talking about how he's going to get out of it, and Vinny sort of being dismissive towards that. And it's sort of more interesting if you have this idea in the back of your head that Vinny's going to die because he's pursuing Butch. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Oh yeah, you're right. So the gold, basically the last major thing that happens is Vincent getting shot.
Yeah, so that's pretty much how the film ends, really. Yeah,
ends technically. And like I said before, like the fact that there's no ending, that would be the end. If that was the ending to the movie and it was in chronological order, it'd be a bit weird, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, actually, to be honest, what we're actually ignoring here is that really the film would end with some big gangster getting butt fucked.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
We do forget about that bit, but yeah.
Yes.
I think, but yeah, if you were kind of, if you were trying to make it chronological and kind of more, let's say, narratively typical, you would restructure it, possibly so it ends with, something exciting happening. Obviously the thing is, Vincent's death in itself is one of those classic, just surprising deaths. Where you don't really think. You think maybe that Vincent's going to talk his way out of it or something, and then he just gets shot. Actually, you know what? Can we talk about the fact that something bad happens every time Vinny goes to the bathroom?
Yeah, go for it.
He goes to the bathroom at Mrs. Wallace's house, or Marcellus Wallace's wife. I don't know. Is she? Obviously, yeah, if it's his wife. Goes to Mia. That's her name, right?
Yeah.
Goes to the bathroom at Mia's house, and she overdoses, and that's bad. He goes to the bathroom at Butch's house, and then he gets shot and killed, and then he goes to the bathroom at the diner, and the place gets held up. So, shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, maybe there's some meaning in that. I don't know. Wouldn't surprise me if there was. Like, what book was he reading? Do you know?
I don't know, actually.
I bet it had a message. I should have looked that up. I should have seen what book he was reading.
Anyway, I might look it up surreptitiously while you're talking.
Okay, so I think, we've discussed the narrative structure and why...
actually, I've got something else to say, actually, Luke.
Okay, go on.
So I have one thing I would like to say, which I think might be a bit controversial. I would contend this is possibly the most unnecessary. It's called My Name is Modesty, by the way. That's what the book is called. I just looked it up. I don't know if that means anything really. My Name is Modesty. The only thing that's obviously significant about that is that this film isn't exactly modest in many ways. But anyway, so I would say this is possibly the most unnecessary usage of non-chronological storytelling in a Tarantino film. Especially because the thing is, what I was comparing it to in my head when I was thinking about this is Reservoir Dogs. Because in Reservoir Dogs, it's very obvious why it's told out of sync. Because, for example, obviously if Reservoir Dogs was told in sync, the first thing you would see would be the undercover cop, and that would completely ruin one of the twists, for example. But then, obviously, even Kill Bill, there's obviously many ways where that is logically told out of order. And there's like a lot of Tarantino's films where there's kind of a twist at the end or something which you never really see coming, or flashbacks to explain things. In this film, I don't know if there was really as much of a need to tell the story in like a weird with a weird structure. I think it's sort of just, to me, it's probably closer to being just unique for uniqueness' sake in this film than it is compared to, say, for example, in Reservoir Dogs, where it's very important that it's like that.
You're kind of encroaching on something I was going to get onto later.
All right, okay, yeah, that's fine then. All right, well, in that case, that was the last thing I had to say. So if you want to move on to
it is interesting to think about. But I think we should just talk about, for the start, just the plot. I guess what actually happens in this movie. So obviously, it's about the lives of these seemingly unrelated people, woven together, comprising a series of funny, bizarre, and uncalled for incidents. This movie is basically made up of a bunch of memorable, entertaining scenes. There is no non-entertaining scenes, no filler scenes like in a traditional movie. Context is not needed. And a load of stuff that would, be in a Pulp Fiction-like comic, which obviously Tarantino bases this off, it takes place like fixing fights, double-crossing, murder, rape, drugs, overdosing on drugs, gimps, accidentally blowing someone's head off. All that stuff, a lot of it, I should say, probably has been done before, but there's so much of it just comes at you again and again in interesting ways. And so all this stuff is going on, and in between that you have the dialogue, which we'll get onto. But it is that is what comprises the movie.
Yeah, and also I think possibly the gratuitousness of it in combination with the fact that a lot of it almost seems irrelevant or inconsequential. So some guy gets shot literally just because, by accident. And loads of things happen which are really violent. And you could say in a sense that's possibly reflective of the fact that if you have a comic that is presumably released via, episode by episode, week by week, then you'd probably have that. So, again, it's hard to say because I don't really know much about these, but I know of some, but I've never, sat down and read one. But I would assume the way it works, oftentimes you have something, all of this violent stuff happening, all of this, sex stuff, all of this betrayal, all that kind of stuff. And then the next episode, it's, things are sort of all the horrible violence that happened last week is almost forgotten, and like there's new things happening, which I think is probably kind of reflected in the way that this film treats the violent stuff that's happening and the deaths and things.
Yeah. So again, that is true. And in between all of this stuff that's going on, you have the dialogue, and you do like it is a thing in Tarantino movies, but this is the movie which it's at its maximum. A bunch of interesting characters saying stories that I'm guessing like Tarantino and other screenwriters have heard of, or things they have mused on. Like, why does nobody ever rob a restaurant? What are the differences between like Europe and America? How sexual is a foot massage? And that one was definitely something that Tarantino thought of. Getting offended.
Are there actually feet in this film?
Yeah, like Uma Thurman, her first shot.
Oh, okay, yeah. I can't really remember because I'm not a freak unlike Tarantino, so I don't remember these things. And
she takes her shoes off when she dances, and there's a shot of her feet. Yeah, it's pretty obvious one. Why Tarantino did that? Anyway, getting when she gets offended by a question as well, like she's talking about getting offended, how natural it is, and the nature of getting offended. Like, there's talking about freaking pot bellies, whether they're sexy, whether or not you should eat pigs because they're filthy, like what is a miracle, like just stuff like people would talk or think about or talk about every now and then. And it's just like, if we make the dialogue interesting and get these characters, and the characters put so much effort into the dialogue to make what they're saying interesting. You need charismatic actors for this, and obviously you've got a bunch in this movie. Like, I just think obviously Uma Thurman explaining how she could get offended when she could just say it in like a fifth of the words that she says, or Jules discussing what a pilot is. Like, he just gives so much effort into, instead of just explaining like in a sentence what a pilot is, he like goes on like a massive paragraph in comparison to the sentence, obviously, about how what a pilot is. It's like, and that is the key to this movie, and because if you didn't have this good dialogue, think about it. Like, if the dialogue wasn't good, if it wasn't interesting, then the movie would feel a lot more shallow and a lot less interesting. Wouldn't you agree?
Definitely. Obviously the dialogue definitely holds this film together, and also I think the dialogue does wonders for the pacing, I think, because it kind of makes the film feel like the events have room to breathe, and yet it's never boring. I mean, something that I always think about Tarantino films is I'm often surprised, especially when I rewatch them, and I see like, oh wow, there's 40 minutes left of the film, and not much happens in, I know from having seen this film before that not much is actually going to happen between now and the end of the film. But I'm happy about that, because I know that the reason why, quote unquote, not that much happens is because what does happen is drawn out really perfectly with dialogue that, like you say, for example, it's long, it takes longer than necessary. And I think that's kind of it, because there's other films, in general, I think there's an idea in so many films that dialogue is bad. The best example of this I can think of is Aquaman. So Aquaman,
wow.
The basic idea was they needed to introduce all of this stuff. So what they did is they had these dialogue scenes where characters would stand around and explain what was happening. And then, because dialogue is bad, because dialogue is intrinsically boring, you would have to have somebody come in and blow something up in order to get the audience's attention. But like Tarantino what makes it so interesting that he's not efficient with his dialogue is it's because it's not just utilitarian. It's not just there to say, this is what you need to know. And it is kind of like the fact that they're talking about stuff that really doesn't matter. They're not explaining things that matter to the plot. They're not pumping you full of information and exposition. It makes it like so much more charming and kind of less cynical and enjoyable to actually listen to.
Yeah, because you are listening to an interesting conversation. It is like you are there. Like, for example, when they're discussing the foot massage, it is like you are there with those two characters, and you're not trying to take on information. It's like you're just listening and you're enjoying the conversation and you're having a good time. That's what makes it engaging. And you're right, like how the dialogue does give these action scenes as well room to breathe, because there is a formula to this movie, which is something exciting happens, and then you got some interesting dialogue spoken by one of the characters, then something again interesting happens, and so on and so forth. And this is how these scenes keep you engaged. Like the dialogue, but also the anticipation of what could happen next, given all the crazy stuff that's happened previously in the movie. That's why this movie is incredibly fun to watch, because like, especially for the first time, because you're just like, wow, what's happening, next, what's going to come next? And, it keeps you on the edge of your seat throughout. And, the dialogue, as we were mentioning, is a big part of that as well.
Yeah. Also, I think, like, the fact, one of the things I was kind of thinking is it's like the dialogue almost has this weird line between it's feels real, and yet I think in reality it's it's so perfect that you kind of know it's not real, but it feels real, if you get what I'm saying. Because I think something you were saying is kind of like, it feels like, just normal people talking, and I think that's true. But then the interesting thing is it's also much more interesting than real people talking. Like if you and I, okay, so obviously we're talking about something very particular here, so it's not a good example. But if you and I, had to go on a road trip and drive somewhere, we probably wouldn't have like any conversations half as interesting as the conversations they're having in Pulp Fiction, just because I think in reality, people, they're just
people don't put that much effort in.
Exactly, yeah. So I think it's the fact that at the same time you can tell that Tarantino put effort in, and yet it also feels so natural. And I think that's like just mental. And then I think the other final thing is that it's like the fact that, because I think one of the things that you could kind of think about dialogues, you think, well, dialogue's easy because you just say, I don't think anyone would be quite this, naive, let's say, but you can say dialogue's easy because you just, write down what people say. Everyone talks, everyone knows how people talk, you just do it. But I think it's the idea of having it feeling real coming from a character. Like it's actually, an individual character talking. I think that's something which Tarantino, I don't know how much of it is actors kind of adding their own flourish to it, but I think a lot of it is like Tarantino has this crazy ability to just create a persona in his own head and write as if he's that person. Yeah. I think Tarantino, actually, that's something that he just has as a magical ability.
Well, yeah, well, the key thing is his characters take a very principled stance on like a mundane subject, like, for example, a foot massage. And people in real life don't often take very principled stances, unless they're joking, obviously, on mundane subjects. And if somebody did do that, you'd just be like, okay, whatever, man, I don't really care. Like, but the fact is, his characters engage with that principled stance. Like, obviously, Vincent thinks that foot massages are, in the same ballpark as, what did he say? They were in the same ballpark as, I think, having sex or something.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been quite as bad as having sex, but it was, something similar, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that is, it's a strong stance, but he's principled. And in Jules, instead of this is what would happen in real life, Jules would be like, okay, man, whatever, I don't really care. But Jules engages with it and just discusses it, and that's what makes it entertaining. I
think the real question is, Luke, would you give a man a foot rub?
Yeah, exactly. Would you? No, I would not.
Yeah, I would not too. I mean, to be honest, I feel like Jules is wrong.
Jules lost an argument.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, again, Tarantino's thought about this, obviously, especially foot massages, and he's come up with this conclusion. And the same thing about like pot bellies. Like, I don't know who the fuck came up with that one.
that one's weird.
Why does nobody rob a restaurant? Now that actually does play into the plot, so that's a bit different. And obviously the differences between Europe and America. A lot of people across the years have talked about that. Another one is about pigs being filthy. Like, that's why
that one's interesting.
So yeah, I don't know who came up with that one. But yeah, those kind of things, are just very interesting. I do think there's another one actually in Reservoir Dogs. Do you remember the conversation that Steve Buscemi has right at the beginning?
Tipping, yeah, that's kind of the classic, and I think that's
it's like somebody takes a very principled stance on something which is like nobody cares about. Like, I've never had a conversation about tipping apart from, how much should we tip? But somebody is like, no, I'm not tipping. It's like, really? That's a bit weird. And so obviously all the characters have a really engaging conversation about tipping. And that is, the key to his dialogue. He manages to make boring things...
Not boring.
Yeah, not boring. That in respect to
interesting,
dialogue.
As it were.
Yes, in respect to dialogue and the things that they are talking about as well. So yeah, that is the beauty of Tarantino. He's very gifted at doing that, and is why this movie works. Or part of the reason why this movie works. Definitely the dialogue. And yeah, it's weird to talk about the dialogue so much, especially talking about the plot. But yeah, I think this movie...
I think it fits her, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so here's where... Remember what I said before, Michael? You were encroaching on what I was going to bring up next. What were you talking about?
Okay. I'm ready. We're talking about the fact that the moving around with the time and the chronology feels kind of unnecessary in this film, especially compared to Tarantino's other films.
Yeah, you said feels unnecessary. So here's the thing. Because of the structure, because of the dialogue, and the entertaining scenes, and the charismatic characters, this movie, Pulp Fiction, has been considered a masterpiece. That's what it says, at least on the Wikipedia page. I'll get up the exact quote here, where so Pulp Fiction has been widely regarded as Tarantino's masterpiece, with particular praise for its screenwriting, the self-reflexivity, unconventional structure, and extensive homage. I'm not going to pronounce that word. That's a French word. Pastiche? Whatever. I tried to pronounce it anyway.
Yeah, I know of that term. I don't even know what it means, though.
Pastiche is a work of visual art, literature, theatre, or music. It's the start of the... Okay, right, whatever. Have led critics to describe it as a touchstone of postmodern film. It is often considered a cultural watershed, influencing movies and other media that adopted elements of its style. And in 2008, Entertainment Weekly named it the best film since 1983. So I imagine that's the best movies of the last 25 years, and it has appeared on many critics' lists of greatest films ever made. It was also selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry in 2013. So we've been doing quite a lot of movies that have been selected for that registry lately. But anyway, so that is Pulp Fiction. That is its, I guess, its praise. You know, it's why people are so high on this movie. Why we are doing this movie, because obviously it's one of the most renowned movies of the last 25 years. But was this movie a difficult movie to make? This is where I was thinking about it. Like, a good dialogue is the hardest part, and obviously all of that was really entertaining. And the only thing I was like, what the fuck is the pot belly thing? It was just like, what the fuck is this? What are you talking about? But all the other conversations I could get involved in. But is the non-linear thing just a gimmick? Like other movies that have been called masterpieces, more traditional of, you know, the movies in this masterpiece sort of thing. Are they harder to make? Because think about it, if this movie was just linear, would it be revered as much?
I honestly, I think yes, it would be, to be honest. I think that this film, like my main problem with it is I think kind of the moving around the chronology is almost irrelevant. So it's kind of like, to me, I like it, and I think that the moving around the chronology is something which I just sort of think about. It doesn't really affect me one way or the other. I don't think it necessarily impacts people's opinion of it in a favourable way. Although I do think it is something which probably gives it an edge in terms of people going, oh, it's unique, it's unconventional. Yeah. So I guess, okay, to answer your question objectively, yes, it would not be praised as much. I don't know how much of a massive difference it would make, though.
See, here's the thing with this. I'm like, I go back to my previous question there. Is it hard to make? Like, was this movie as hard to make as other movies that have been called masterpieces?
Well, I mean, like, the thing is, part of the problem with your kind of the parameters of your question is, if you take, for example, dialogue, I think Tarantino has a natural,
that's what I said. That is the hardest part. But I think you and I could write dialogue which isn't as entertaining, but gets close to it. It would not be awful. Yeah, it would be awful. Like, because like I said, we know the formula. You take a very, principled stance on a mundane topic, and you have the other character engage with that topic, and then that creates entertainment. And obviously,
all right. Well, you know what, Luke? Maybe we should try and write a Quentin Tarantino scene. See whether or not we can make it. To give us a frame of reference. I mean, yeah, I kind of get where you're coming from with like it being sort of I mean, one point would be this film isn't, I don't think, especially artistic in its filmmaking. I can't, we obviously are not mentioning cinematography. I don't think there's anything that necessarily stands out about that. I think this film is very much what you might call, well, I don't want to say style over substance, but it's definitely
that's what I'm trying
a
to get
lot of
at.
style where there isn't substance.
Repeat that? Sorry?
I don't know. What I said is there's style where there isn't substance. I don't know if that's true. So what I should say, there's style in some places and there's substance in other places, but there's not very many places where style and substance are working together. So, for example, a lot of the style is in the episodic nature of it. That would be an example of style. It's like, oh, it's weird, it's different, but there's not much substance to the fact that it's got a weird episodic kind of jumping all over the place thing. Or the other example would be, of course, that it's in many ways reminiscent just visually of a lot of 1970s and, so I guess from period 50s to 70s, things like that. But then there's not much substance to that in terms of the cinematography and the way it's shot.
Okay, what is the substance? Because this is what I was going to talk about.
I would say where it does have substance is in the dialogue and the writing of the characters and how believable the characters are. And, I mean, the plot, I guess... the thing is... Well, I guess it's like, it's something, it's meat. It's something that makes you go, oh, this is entertaining. It's something that gets you through the film,
Isn't that style, though?
Well, no, I'd say, like, style would be like a kind of...
When you're talking about the dialogue and substance, like we've just said before, like a lot of the entertaining dialogue is about mundane stuff that doesn't actually have a lot of substance. Nothing actually do with the plot. So it does seem just like it is like style. Like this is what I was thinking about this movie. It does like seem to me, having watched it, quite shallow. Like there's nothing really there. It's just entertaining stuff with, good dialogue. And we've, said, well, it makes it entertaining and it makes it fun to watch and a wild ride and like on the edge of your seat, etc. And that's all good. But if you take a step back and actually say, wait, what was this movie? What actual substance did it have? Was it just shallow? I think that is something that has to be considered.
I think like part of it is that sort of, it's kind of judging the film by a standard I don't think it's trying to reach, although I see what you're saying, but like for example it's not like well, I'm not like it's not trying to reach it, but the fact is it has reached it. Like it's been called a masterpiece, which is why I started this whole conversation by framing it like that. I mean the thing is like there are a lot of see, obviously the things we recently reviewed Forrest Gump, and the big problem with that is that really nothing was sort of meaningful was happening. It was just moving all over the place. And I think in some sense you would almost draw a comparison between this and
exactly.
Forrest Gump. I think the thing is that you have to give credit to how unique the film is in terms of its presentation. And like, so I guess the thing is, you don't really go to this film I'm trying to think of like an analogy for it, but it's like, you don't really go to this film for like the most fantastic story arc. You'd go to Lord of the Rings for that, wouldn't you, Luke? But this film, it's like so basically in essence you're right, but I don't know if it necessarily precludes it from being a masterpiece, because I think you can make an argument that it's an interesting experience to kind of just watch a film where it feels so real in terms of like the characters and their actions and the way that the story unfolds from the characters' actions. I guess, well, I don't know. I mean, obviously, there's actually a question that I did want to ask you. I was going to ask you it at the end of the thing, but I can ask you it now because I think it might be interesting. What do you think? You may not have an answer to this immediately, but what do you think is Tarantino's best film?
What is Tarantino's best film? What is Tarantino's best film?
It's a hard one.
See, the thing is, like, it is a hard question because Tarantino, if you are just talking about his best film, then it's probably different to
the best film he's made. So what you're saying in other words is like his. I think I might be right in saying. So what you're saying in other words is that if you're talking about Tarantino's best film, you'd be talking about the film that's kind of peak Tarantino.
Yeah, what is the most Tarantino? Exactly. That's what I'm thinking. And that, obviously, it's this movie. It is the most Tarantino. It is his movie with his stamp on, obviously, because nothing like this had been created before. It is why, obviously, it got such rave reviews when it was released. But, again, I'm not sure that it's that good in terms of just how difficult was it to make. Like, I just come back to that. And I think you take a movie like Inglourious Bastards, or even, I don't know.
Sure, what about Django?
Django is kind of similar.
Okay, yeah, Django's very episodic, actually.
Yeah, exactly. Inglourious Bastards. Yeah,
so I guess what you're saying, okay, is that there's a certain particular skill to perfectly crafting a plot. A plot that kind of all the things sort of weave into each other and stuff like that. And obviously this film doesn't do that because it's sort of just the plot is at the behest of the characters. So, the plot kind of comes with everything else, and therefore Tarantino doesn't really need to properly. And I think, to be honest, that is something which bothers me. I tell you what, okay, here's my kind of counter take. Because, for example, I recently watched every single Tarantino film ever made. And one of the things I kind of realized is that Django Unchained sat quite badly with me for that reason, which was that I think it was basically the same problem you're describing, that it wasn't really trying to craft this fantastic plot because it was very episodic. But then the thing that holds Django Unchained back more is that it also doesn't fully embrace the kind of fly-on-the-wall, casual, not rushing to get anywhere attitude of Pulp Fiction. So I think, in that sense, I think you're right in saying that, that most of Tarantino's films fall into this kind of not... I'd say Jackie Brown's actually quite a good plot.
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
Do you love Jackie Brown, Luke?
Yeah, I have seen Jackie Brown.
Well, you know what? I mean, it would be quite woke of you to like Jackie Brown because it's about it's a very empowering film for black women.
I was thinking Jackie Brown, in all of his movies, it does seem like kind of the odd one out.
Yeah, it's also I almost felt like Jackie Brown's based on some original source material, but that might be completely made up. So
maybe. I don't know.
It's not. But actually, I can see how that would be. Yeah, I think it does stand out because actually Jackie Brown does have a pretty good plot, and I think Tarantino had to think, assuming it wasn't taken from original source material, I'd imagine Jackie Brown was probably the film where Tarantino had to, let's say, edit it much more in terms of the plot, because I guess that's the thing, like as I understand writing a plot, one of the things you kind of do is you get your basic outline and then you kind of go through periods of editing and refining it and perfecting it. And I imagine for Jackie Brown, he probably needed to do that quite a lot because it is very well crafted in terms of the way each thing moves on to the next in a way that forms a coherent narrative arc. In this film, each thing goes into the next, but there is no coherent narrative arc, and therefore he probably didn't need to sit around refining the plot. That's true. So, definitely the plot isn't refined, I think would be a good
the plot isn't refined, and that's what I go back to again. Was this hard to make? Like, if you are making a movie which is like carefully crafted and has themes which this movie again doesn't have. Oh yeah. And you are taking your time and making it fit well instead of doing what Tarantino does, which is just a wild ride. Like, I think back to an interview he had when somebody was criticizing his. It was an interview back in the early 2000s. I'm sure you've seen the clip of an interviewer who was criticizing his.
He says, "Because it's fun."
Yeah, exactly. His violence, and I was thinking, maybe he could answer, or if his movies did have substance in general, it would be like, well, it shows how humanity, is I don't know, the true nature of humanity and all that, something like that.
Yeah,
but no, it's just fun, and I'm just like, after seeing this and analyzing it, and thinking of that interview and this discussion we've just had, it's like, is Tarantino actually like, is he actually not? Is he just like the best action movie director ever? Like, you think about action movies, they're not very revered, are they? Yeah, well, actually, it's funny that you kind of mentioned that because I saw is it?
Yes, after I watched Inglourious Bastards, I remembered a video essay I'd seen called Inglourious Bastards Laughing at the Audience, and the thesis of the video essay was that Inglourious Bastards is supposed to be a meta-critique on Tarantino's own audience who enjoy his violent content, because obviously in Inglourious Bastards you have the film is about people making a film about basically it's a hyper-violent Nazi guy who killed those people, and that's the plot. And the argument was that the film we're presented in the universe of Inglourious Bastards, which is called something like Glory to the Nation or something like that, is reflected in Inglourious Bastard itself, which presents extreme violence to us, the audience, and we're supposed to enjoy it. And it was, a reasonably well-made point.
No,
but
way
then basically all the comments are like, mate, it's Tarantino.
Yeah, exactly.
He did, and to be honest, that's true. I mean, because the thing is, like, really, it was an example of reading things into it, and I definitely think that's true. I mean, Tarantino, he doesn't have themes in any of his films, and he definitely is. It's fun. Also, something else I've been thinking about is Tarantino's a prick.
Well, obviously, but I don't
Did you hear about? I will probably review this film at some point. But you know what? Let's just have a bit of a Tarantino moment. Did you hear about the whole thing with the antique guitar on the set of The Hateful Eight?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, but basically, I mean,
that's another one of his movies which doesn't really have anything about it.
Yeah, see, I watched The Hateful Eight, and I was and I think that's kind of the film which I thought, like, you know what? I mean, it's not a bad film, and I don't think any of Tarantino's films are bad, but I was thinking, you know what? Tarantino, he's a bit of a hack. With his just kind of doing the same thing he's always been doing, and you hear that he was laughing, and I 100% do believe that he intended for Kurt Russell to break the antique guitar for the film, man, because it's about capturing the moment, it's going to be real. What a nonce. Anyway, but no, I mean the thing is, I get what you're saying. Although I think
there is an emptiness to his movies, and that isn't what you said before. Does Tarantino want this adulation of his movies? Does he want it to be a masterpiece, or does he just want to make movies which he enjoys? Maybe we're being a bit unfair, criticizing him so much, but the fact is, the bar has been set, and apparently these movies are masterpieces. Certainly, this one is Pulp Fiction. Apparently, that is the case. So, if this movie is a masterpiece, I think while we're reviewing it and analyzing it, it's only fair to mention, well, does it meet up to that bar? Because no other movie which is absent of themes or a well-structured plot or carefully crafted plot, I should say, is in this category. It is like Tarantino got the utmost out of violence and interesting dialogue. He got the utmost out of that, and he's very skilled at what he does, and that's what's brought him to be one of the most acclaimed directors of the last 30 years or whatever. But is the fact that there is an emptiness to his work, it does seem to be something that, again, I don't think you can ignore. And
I think that's a really fair criticism. I mean, it's obviously a criticism of, I think, Tarantino in general. And I will say, to kind of answer the question backwards, which I posed to you, which is what is the best Tarantino film? I'm not sure, but I do think actually that I prefer his earlier films. I think, for example, Reservoir Dogs, this film, and Jackie Brown, I prefer, I think, definitely to Kill Bill, Django Unchained, and The Hateful Eight. I think maybe Inglourious Basterds has a bit more going on to it, so that could kind of stand above them. But in general, I think Tarantino has got worse as time has gone on, just because I think, So, but yeah, I think in general it's a good criticism of Tarantino, and it is a perfectly valid criticism of the film, especially if somebody is going to call it a masterpiece. Because obviously, to clarify to anybody who, I assume this is going to be revealed when we actually get around to our conclusion, but you're not saying this is a bad film.
No, it's not. It's not a
you're
bad
just saying
film.
it's a bit perhaps undeserving of the title masterpiece.
Here's the thing. I compared it to action movies before, which obviously have a lot of violence in it, and the violence is meant to be for entertainment, like in Tarantino's movies. And I think the difference is obviously the dialogue that Tarantino has. That is the key. That's what makes it seem like it is more than just an action movie. And obviously, the camera work he does, in Kill Bill, for instance, in that scene no action movie is doing that. So that's what sets him apart. But what, for example, the action movies that we have reviewed on this on Select and Reflect, The Predator, I gave it 7.5 out of 10. Now, again,
it was actually just Predator, Luke. The Predator was the remake.
So that is a action movie, and I'm 7.5 out of 10. That's not bad. It's good. It's a good movie. And that's the thing, though. If we're just comparing it to an action movie like The Predator, then I don't think we'd be criticizing it that much. But when it's
we're comparing it to films I think
Shawshank Redemption, which was released in the same year, for instance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think a lot of I don't know how many of Tarantino's films are in the top 250, but I know some of them are. Of IMDb, obviously. What was it?
Entertainment Weekly. Where is it? Entertainment Weekly named it its best film since 1983.
What? Pulp Fiction?
Yeah, Pulp Fiction. It's what I said before when talking about it. The best film from the period of 1983 to 2008. The best. Yeah. The best film.
Sorry. I tell you what, actually, almost the top 250 actually agrees with that, based on the fact, there are a few other films there. But by the way, the two Tarantino films are Django Unchained and Pulp Fiction in the top 250. But anyway, I think that's all good and true and stuff like that. But what we really need to talk about, Luke, now is the gay BDSM scene.
Okay, so I think we need to sum up on this. This discussion. So I guess I started off by saying,
this probably would have been a good thing to end on, by the way. It does occur to me, because it feels kind of weird now, because we're going to go into some more generic stuff. But it's fine. It doesn't matter. Summarize on this anyway.
Yeah, whatever. The thing is, I started off by this conversation by saying, is this a hard movie to make? And like I said, I think the dialogue is its hardest thing, but we could get me and you somewhere close to the dialogue. Like we say, if we stick to the formula, mundane things, a principle to stand on a mundane thing and engage in conversation, then there you go. Like, what do you think about sofas, Michael?
Well, I'll tell you what. I don't like leather sofas because here's the thing: they get sweaty, and my arms stick to them. I think you're going to get a sofa, okay? I want my skin to float on it, and I'm talking like something that's fabric because that way there's like a layer. The fuzz is a layer of protection.
Well, Michael, but leather sofas, like, they're the height of quality. If you've got a leather sofa in your house, it shows you made it.
Okay, rich people, they don't know what they're on about. People buy things that they think show they've made it, but actually they're not worth shit. Some guy buys a steak. Have you ever actually taken a steak and taken a burger, okay, and you put them next to each other? A burger's got more going on. It's got bread, it's got lettuce, it's got tomato. A steak is just a hunk of meat. And I think like if it wasn't called a steak, people wouldn't care. Like if you just took like a roast beef sandwich, nobody would care, even though that's like, I mean, it's the same thing, but it's got bread too, and horseradish and onions and stuff. But people go, oh, that's a roast beef sandwich. And then people eat steak. A leather sofa is the steak of sofas.
There we go. Like, if we refine that a bit, that could be in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, and then
I get you.
Got the, the fucking violence and everything alongside that, and there you go. We've got ourselves the best movie of the last 25 years. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, also, I mean, the thing is though, that we can't dance, so we need to get John Travolta in to fulfill that role.
Okay. Well, anyway, there you go.
I get you.
I just want to say, actually, I'm sorry. There was this quote from a guy called James Wood who kind of echoed my feelings. Who was writing.
Is this the famous James Wood?
It is. I'm guessing it's not. I fucking hope it's not, because that'd be embarrassing. I just thought, well, it's quite a generic name, isn't it, James Wood?
Yeah, it is.
So I'm going on the Wikipedia page. I hope it's not. James Wood. Let me see. Click on his name. No, he's a critic. It's not the same James Wood. Thank God. So James Wood, writing in The Guardian, set the tone for much subsequent criticism. Tarantino represents the final triumph of postmodernism, which is to empty the artwork of all content, thus avoiding its capacity to do anything except helplessly repress our agonies. Only in this age could a writer as talented as Tarantino produce artworks so vacuous, so entirely stripped of any politics, metaphysics, or moral interest. So obviously he's hating on postmodernism there.
That's cool.
That's a whole other conversation. But in terms of what he says at the end, like it's vacuous, it's stripped of politics, stripped of moral interest, metaphysics. Like it's just. That's what I said before. It seems hollow. It seems shallow. It seems empty.
Yeah, well, a lot of Tarantino's films, I think, are nihilistic, which is, so in other words, I mean, take, for example, Reservoir Dogs. What happens at the end of Reservoir Dogs? Literally, everyone shoots each other, and then Steve Buscemi, the most kind of nihilistic character there is, just comes out, takes the money, and runs off, and everything's fine for him, which I think kind of sets up pretty much Tarantino's entire ethos on humanity.
Yeah, again, but is there a theme of nihilism in this movie?
No, there isn't. I mean, it's more like it's more what you might call a meta theme. It's a theme that undergirds the lack of themes. But I get you. Anyway, though, I think we should move on because
yes, let's move on. Think about
talk about the gay BDSM scene. No, I mean, so we kind of wanted to go through some actual major things that happened. And there are a fair few. I mean, do you want to
I'll
go through. Yeah.
Well, basically, what we're going to do here is just react to stuff that happens because we've analysed the movie.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah, so we're just reacting, I guess. So I guess we'll start off with the first storyline.
Yeah.
Which is obviously, actually, I'm just looking which Wikipedia states is the most obvious storyline, or the first storyline. Sorry, and I believe it's the mob contract killer Vincent Vega is the protagonist of the first story. So that is, I guess, Vincent Vega. Well, is he the protagonist of the first story? I don't know. Well,
he is because he does the whole taking the woman out.
Yeah, I know.
But
for the first bit, it's him and Jules.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but I don't know. We'll say it's from his perspective. I guess why not? Even though like he's kind of just stood in the background while Jules is doing the whole Bible thing. I guess okay. So first thing that jumps to mind. I don't know about you, but the what scene? It's classic.
It is a classic. I mean, that whole scene is classic. Again, the dialogue. It's just so engaging. It's so fun. Samuel L. Jackson, so charismatic, with the what? Say what again?
I double dare you.
Yeah, this is what it's going to be. This section, it's just like repeating like lines of dialogue.
It's good. I liked it. It was neat.
It's fun. It's fun. Yeah. And then obviously
also I guess it was interesting how callous they were. Like they literally just, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't have shot those guys. I don't know about you, Luke, but I wouldn't have shot those people who seemed relatively innocent.
Mm-hmm. I guess not. Well, because they're white.
Yeah. Well, hold on a minute. I wouldn't have shot the. Actually, you know what? They shot all the white people. But then the black guy, he gets shot by accident. So they're kind of reverse racist because they should have shot the black guy on purpose.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And the white guys because I'm not racist.
Yes. So, and obviously, that scene again. You have the Royale with cheese talk. Do you know what they call? Do you know what they call a burger at McDonald's?
They call it. They don't call it a quarter pounder with cheese. I don't know what a quarter pounder is. They got the metric system. Blah 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 blah.
No, I was referencing The Simpsons.
Oh, sorry. They don't call them a crusty burger.
No, they call it a quarter pounder with cheese.
A quarter pounder? I can picture the cheese, but do they have crust? I'm not going to get this right. Do they have a crusty brand partially gelatinated gum-based dairy beverages?
Yeah, they call them shakes.
Shakes. Don't know what you're getting. It's so classic. Okay. Yeah, all right. So then I guess we should probably go through this with some pace. So I think the dinner date with... I mean, they have some stuff in between, but yeah, we'll go... So,
this is the most famous scene in the movie, I'd say.
What, when they dance?
The whole, thing. Now
I can dance. Watch me now.
I was actually looking on the Wikipedia page about the characters, and the only character with their separate Wikipedia page is Mia Wallace. And that is because it's not a very long Wikipedia page. It just basically says the stuff in the biography on the Pulp Fiction page. But essentially, I think it's because her look was iconic. And that's the thing.
Yeah, she does look weird.
Sorry?
I said weird. I mean, she looks different.
She looks different, yes, but she also she does have an unusual look about her, and obviously her eyes are far apart as well, which helps the weirdness of the look. But yeah, she just does look different, and immediately as she walks in, it's like there is there's something different, and if you dressed up as her today, you could tell. Yeah,
people would think I was a bit strange. Yeah.
Well, yes.
Just, we've got to move towards going against these gender non-conformity.
If you want to dress up as Uma Thurman,
exactly.
You can. And obviously the dancing scene, which is the iconic scene from that movie.
Because it's John Travolta, and he's dancing, and it's I don't know. I guess it's iconic because it's meant to be cool. Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're that good at dancing, but I mean, every single time I do weird dance moves, everyone thinks I'm strange. But then these people do what to me look like weird dance moves, and everyone's 100% on board with it. So clearly, it's about confidence. I think that's the message. And also, apparently, a $5 shake, which, to be honest, I mean, nowadays in this economy, how much does a orange mocha frappuccino from Starbucks set you back? Probably $5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess so.
Anyway, yeah. So next. I guess she overdoses. Is there too much interest in there? I mean,
the interest is the scene, which another famous scene again, which I say it's the famous scene because of Mia Wallace's look and the dancing, and then she gets a fucking needle stuck through her heart, an adrenaline shot.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, here's the thing. Okay, I would think if I were her, I'd be worried. Because, I mean, I wouldn't want to go to bed alone that night. I'd be like, can you stay with me? Because I kind of don't want to, die or anything. But I guess, because, I mean, I don't know. I almost want to say that I admire the resolve of somebody who can overdose on drugs, nearly die, and then still continue to do drugs. I mean, really, it's not something to be impressed by because it's probably just that they're addicted. But, at the end of the day, you've got to admire their cojones.
Yes, I guess so. Yeah, okay, moving on to the next scene, or the next, I guess point of the movie. It's the second, part, which is
set up in the first one, isn't it? Because in the first one, they're talking about the whole him taking a dive.
Yeah.
And then the one thing, okay, I don't know about this. I don't know if you have any thoughts. So I wasn't sure whether or not it was clear that this was Butch's big shot at something. Maybe he was about to win something really important, or if it was just a kind of pride thing, even though it wasn't a major fight. I didn't, because the guy was obviously hey, you're no big deal. You haven't made it big yet, so you're probably not going to. I don't know. Yeah, I was a bit. I didn't know exactly why it was that Bruce Willis felt the need to
fix.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, I get the fix. Yeah. So, but I was thinking maybe there was something else to it, but
it
was just the money. You know what?
Yeah, money. He's I'm coming to the end of my career. guess
Gotta
what?
have bank.
I want to make some bank. And obviously his plan was, hey, I'll talk to Marcellus Wallace. Then what I'll do is I'll say, yeah, I'll, fix the fight and get Matt back. He clearly thought, like, he agreed with Marcellus's analysis.
And then he got the money. I like to think that he took the money from Marcellus Wallace and then used that money to bet in the other way. So that he was, that would be the real insult. I'll tell you what, he had a lot of confidence. Almost as much confidence as Uma Thurman, assuming she goes back to taking drugs.
Yeah, I guess so. So again, I think the one of the most interesting scenes in the movie is obviously when, it's a really fun sequence when Bruce Willis is getting chased by Ving Rhames as going around the corner, and then they get
accosted kidnapped by hillbilly gay rapists.
Yeah, what a turn of events!
It's so like the thing is, I mean, you can't talk about this. I think in this case, if we hadn't done already, we'd have to bring up the Simpsons episode. The fact that Herman, the fact that Simpsons parodied this, it's just so funny that like Herman did that. But then like the thing is, I have to say that anybody who watches The Simpsons. Obviously, you'd expect that you'd watch The Simpsons at a younger age than you would be watching Pulp Fiction. It does kind of like influence your opinions. Like, for example, I know that, for example, that my sister, who watches The Simpsons a lot, she watched Pulp Fiction at some point or other, I think while she was at uni or something, and she messaged me and she was like, I didn't realize that The Simpsons were parodying Pulp Fiction, and she was kind of like horrified at the idea that you had this, serious scene that was parodied in The Simpsons, but I thought it was quite funny. But for me, obviously, I knew it was a parody of the Pulp Fiction, but it took me a while between finding out and watching it. So as I was watching, I already knew it was coming. But if you look, it's already weird from that perspective of like, knowing it's coming because you've seen The Simpsons. But I guess it's probably also perhaps even more weird if you had no idea it was going to be coming.
Yeah, no, I guess so. I do. There's a couple of lines from that which I did like when Bruce Willis saves Ving Rhames, and I did like the fact that he did go back and save him. When I watched it the first time, I was like, oh yeah, that's good. I like that, saving the day. And to
be honest, I would just want to kill them. So
yeah, no, but I think by not killing them, he was like
gets more.
Well, he was like, maybe he was thinking, hey, I bet Ving Rhames is gonna want to do something to these people, so I won't kill them.
Yeah, I think so. I was, what was I thinking? I tell you what, Ving Rhames, he had a lot of confidence that he wasn't going to kill, because he shot the Zed, like, in the balls with a shotgun.
Yeah.
I would think that there would be a decent chance that he would bleed out from that. I mean,
I love his line, by the way. No, I'm pretty fucking far from okay.
I always remember that line because there was, like, a meme, and it was really stupid. It was, like, one of the worst memes I've ever seen. It was, like, when my friend from Oklahoma asked me if I'm coming to visit him, and then it's like, no, I'm pretty fucking far from okay.
That's great. I love that.
And it was then so stupid.
Another great line. I'm going to get medieval on your ass.
That's a really famous line. It's always it's kind of weird actually when you think about it, because there's like this very extreme sort of. I mean, you got to think about this. Like Marcellus Wallace clearly is the kind of guy who is pretty brutal, and this guy raped him in the butt. So it's like, I mean, there is some unfathomable torture that is implied but not shown in this film. And I was like thinking to myself as I was watching it, for this podcast, which would be for like, I don't know, the third or maybe even the fourth time I've seen it. I was thinking, tell you what, it's not there. But I mean, whatever that torture is going to be, it's going to be pretty bad. I mean, at the end of the day, should have just gone to prison, because that's cruel and unusual punishment. And I think Marcellus Wallace should be ashamed.
Okay.
Also, I wonder what happens to the Gimp. Because, is the Gimp... I mean, it seems like the Gimp's kind of a participant. He's sort of what's the word? Like an active submissive? An enthusiastic submissive. So, I wonder what happened to the old Gimp. Or maybe Bruce Willis is such a badass that he was able to just kill him with one punch.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Anyway, moving on.
Yes, moving on. Okay, to the third bit, which is Jules' part, where he survives the bullets of the guy who shoots at him coming out of the bathroom, and then obviously has a realization that he needs to stop doing what he's doing.
And I guess that's the closest thing the film has to a theme, actually. We're talking about themes. I guess the closest it gets is with the whole idea that, God and divine providence and miracles and things like that. Although it's not really. I mean, it's more just a launch point for a conversation.
Yeah, exactly. It's just Jules saying it, and there's nothing like a theme. I think is more than a character just saying
needs,
shit.
Yeah, it needs kind of narrative substantiation.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, we got to talk about Tarantino's cameo.
I mean, first of all, it's Marvin gets randomly shot in the face. One of the top shocking deaths of ever.
Yes, he gets shot in the face again, which, like, I'm guessing that maybe that death scene was the scene which probably kicked off a lot of moral outrage about Tarantino and his violent films.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, obviously we don't care about that.
I'll tell you what, I could have actually had a, what's the word? Nitpick, because, like, he doesn't seem to have a bad wound on his face when he's put in the trunk.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't see it that clearly.
Anyway, yeah. So, then they go to pick up, and they go to see Tarantino, and I guess this is where we can talk about the words that Tarantino wrote for himself to say.
Well, no, the first line.
Okay.
I know how good my coffee is, okay? I'm the one that bought it.
Have you ever seen the YouTube video where it's like the SpongeBob, but with that dubbed over it?
No.
It works very well. Like, and Patrick is Samuel L. Jackson's character, which anyway, yeah. But
no, I remember back in uni, like, we used to say that line. Remember?
Oh, yeah, I did, yeah.
Yeah, no, how good my fucking coffee is, okay? I'm the one who
buys it. Bonnie goes out, she buys shit. I buy the gourmet expensive stuff because when I drink it, I want to taste it.
Great stuff.
Do you know what's on my mind right now? It ain't the coffee in my kitchen. It's the dead African-American individual. Have you ever seen? Oh, wait, no. That's it. Yeah. You must have seen the video. It's like, it's dead African-American storage. Somebody did like a dub of it.
Oh, that's great.
And it's like, okay, the best. Do you know why it ain't there? Did you know why? Because it ain't there. Because storing African-American individuals isn't my Rudy Toot-Tootin' business. It's so, yeah. But yeah, I mean.
Right, okay, so the N-word.
Let's talk about it. Yes, the N-word.
Like, there's so the guy who manages to, Bruce Willis and Ving Rhames fall into the guy's store, and the white guy behind, the counter says the N-word. I'm like, okay, whatever, he's a rapist.
Yeah, he happens, and a hillbilly, I guess, so it's like, happens to be racist.
Who cares if he says the N-word? That's realistic. But when I was, I hadn't seen this movie for a while, and when Tarantino said the N-word, I was like, oh, wow. I did not expect that. And yeah, he says it like 3 times, and there is no need to say it. And
yeah, it's strange because, like, I mean, obviously, if you have... so obviously the thing is, like, I have black friends, and you have black friends. But I'm saying, like, so obviously, I have not, by dint of having had black friends, ever taken it upon myself to liberally use the N-word around them.
Good for you, Michael.
I know, yeah.
Give yourself a pat on the back.
I'll tell you what, one time, actually, one of my I feel like, did I say African-American friends multiple times just then?
Maybe.
I think I might have.
Which is black.
Black, yeah. I would, usually I'm not adverse to saying black, but because we're talking about African-Americans in a context from, just clarify, I don't have any African-American friends, I have black friends, and one of my black friends actually called me the N-word once in it was an interesting story, but it's one to be left for another time. Anyway.
That's great.
But yeah, so the thing is, but then, so you might say, well, the fact that he's got Samuel L. Jackson as a friend, obviously, the fact the character has Jules as a friend wouldn't necessarily on its own justify him saying the N-word. I suppose the only argument you could make is because he's clearly, like, got the kind of rapport with Samuel L. Jackson that's like I can bring a dead body to your house kind of situation.
Yes.
That maybe at that point you develop a degree of, the character hypothetically develops a degree of familiarity where he's okay liberally using language that typically only a black person would use, but
I would not, obviously I'd recognise his skin colour, but I wouldn't think to bring it up. Like, the way he brings it up, and obviously the fact that the N-word is a racial profanity, it's like, yeah, this is racist. Like, why is this lower middle class white guy really racist? Why is he played by Tarantino? Why is this necessary?
Although I should say, I have heard Tarantino didn't originally want to play this character. He wanted to play, there was another character he wanted to play. I'm not going to be able to remember it, but there was a character he wanted to play, and he decided he didn't want to play that character because he wanted to be, so he didn't want to be multitasking. So basically it was a scene where he wanted to be able to film it it might have even been one of the hillbillies, I don't know, but which I guess would also involve him saying the N-word, so maybe this is a big point. But there was a scene where he wanted to be able to film it and not be, hassled with playing himself at the same time, playing somebody at the same time, just focusing on directing. And therefore he decided he would play himself in this scene because he figured he didn't care as much about this scene, obviously. So I guess we should say that maybe he didn't write the character, maybe he didn't go, oh, I'm going to be playing this character, time to make him racist. Maybe the character was already racist, but then I guess you still got Tarantino being like, I don't know. I mean, why does Tarantino think everybody's so racist?
Okay,
that's the question.
Yeah, because Tarantino, his whole thing is the world that we live in. It's a load of violence and a load of fucking racist people. It's like trying to make the world as like seedy as possible and violent as possible because that stuff's fun. But again, I don't think the N-word is that particularly fun. And again, like I'm not really concerned about him playing it. It just adds just puts a bit of the cherry on top in terms of it's Tarantino just obsessed with the N-word. It's like, why write that character as saying the N-word in the first place? Why?
Yeah, it's strange.
He says it 3 times. It's not like just once, like a throwaway line.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, like, it's just, I mean, obviously he does it in like several films. I mean, I can't think, but like, obviously he's done several films in like the American, past where that makes sense. But I'm pretty sure in like almost every single film he's ever done, if not every single film. In fact, for example, even in Reservoir Dogs, there's a bit where somebody says like, stop acting like a bunch of, when some people are arguing. It's like, hey, you guys, and obviously this is, I think, Steve Buscemi who's saying this. He's like, you're like a bunch of, and so basically my theory is I'm pretty sure that in every single Tarantino film, there's at least one white person who says the N-word. So, obviously, black people saying it, that makes sense.
Is it said in Kill Bill?
I honestly, I would hazard a guess it said in at least, so if you take the 2 films together, I would imagine it's said in at least one of them, but...
How many times is it said in The Hateful Eight and Django Unchained?
1 billion.
Yeah. Like, is that why he just did those movies? No, obviously not, but, fun to think about. Like, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, will the N-word be said in that? That is the... By a white person.
I was thinking that.
That is the big question. Is Brad Pitt gonna say to Leonardo DiCaprio, "Hey, you're acting like an N-word"? Is that gonna happen? Who knows?
Oh, probably.
But yeah, again, I don't know why he is, because I guess, like I said before, his whole thing is trying to be cool and all that, trying to make cool movies, trying to make cool action, and he thinks that word is cool because obviously throughout I don't know how many years, but white males have kind of latched onto black culture as a way of being cool, and obviously that word is associated with black culture, so that makes sense. But yeah, that's my take on it, and yeah, that has not aged well. It really hasn't. I don't know. Like, here's the thing, Michael. Do you think it was common back in the early 90s for someone like Tarantino, a guy like I said, lower middle class, white, living in Los Angeles, in that time period? Do you think it was common for people like that to just say the N-word casually?
Maybe they were still salty about the LA riots.
Maybe.
They couldn't, it was really ruined their day.
Oh, God. Anyway, so that's all I got to say on that particular story. Oh, yeah, we've got to talk about the ending, actually, when Jules manages to convince Tim Roth, or doesn't manage to convince him, doesn't shoot Tim Roth, and obviously the question is, Michael, what is in that case? Yeah,
that's the question. I don't know, I mean, there must be theories about it, but like I haven't even looked into anything. Have you looked into anything?
Well, actually, I'm going onto the Wikipedia page. Notable motifs: the mysterious 666 briefcase. Obviously, it's the number of the beast. Tarantino said there is no explanation for its contents. It is simply a MacGuffin, a pure plot device. Originally, the case was to contain diamonds, but this was seen as too mundane. For film purposes, it contained a hidden orange light bulb that produced an otherworldly glow. So, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like that. I think that's probably one of the more interesting things the film brings to the table, of just having like this MacGuffin, which is, although I guess you could make an argument that sort of sums up the entire film, that it's like something which is essentially at its core meaningless, but, whatever. Whatever, Luke. It's the way it is. Get with the times, man.
Here's the thing, like, is it that interesting? Because after watching this movie, like, I didn't care. Maybe that's because I've seen it before, but I was like, yeah, I don't really care what's in that. Who cares? It could have been diamonds.
That means it worked. It was intended to make you not care, and therefore you've been tricked.
Okay.
You've been Tarantino'd.
Okay.
You've been Shyamalan'd. No, yeah, I mean, like, it's I mean, the thing is, it's one of those things, like, I guess the main thing about it is that you can't really theorize about it because there's nothing to go on. So it'll be kind of, you can't go, there's evidence. Which I think, to be honest, that would have made it better if there was like some indication of what it might be where you could kind of think about it. But, obviously at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
I'll say it's interesting with some, using that term a bit liberally, but it's, just a little thing like,
Yeah. Here's something. Despite Tarantino's statements, many solutions to what one scholar calls the unexplained postmodern puzzle have been proposed. So what do you think about that? The unexplained postmodern puzzle.
I think that's a very, very fancy term for a city slicker like yourself.
The idea that the briefcase contains Marcellus's soul generated popular currency in the mid-90s.
I've heard that, yeah.
Analysing the notion, Roger Ebert dismissed it as nothing more than a widely distributed urban legend, given false credibility by the mystique of the net.
Well,
you can tell it was the
Roger
90s
Ebert
because he called it the net. Sorry?
Yeah, the net. If Roger Ebert said it, he knows everything about films.
Thank God.
Maybe it contains Roger Ebert's soul.
Thankfully, widely distributed urban legends given false credibility are no longer on the internet.
Yeah,
so
that's true,
we've moved past that.
We did it, guys. We defeated racism.
Anyway, so I think that's that, really, in terms of movie. Like, again, we could just react to everything. We could list all of the things that happen and all the cool moments, but then what's the point in, just go see the movie if you want to see that.
Oh, one more thing.
What?
I like how Bruce Willis's character is kind of calm but angry at the same time. Thought it was neat.
Well, yeah,
he gets really angry, and then he's calm sometimes.
You know what? We should actually talk about the characters now. That was a good thing. So, John Travolta was Vincent Vega. Obviously, this was a resurrection for John Travolta. This movie is, how they does that.
Just like the great Lord Zeno will resurrect us when he comes in his spaceship.
Okay. So he received an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor, revitalized his career, and it is the go-to thing of actors getting their career revitalized.
Yeah, well, the thing is, he did that, and literally he moved on to being a crazy person immediately afterwards.
Yeah.
He did Face Off, which wasn't good, and then he moved on to Battlefield Earth, and now he's got... Oh, okay, well, the Face Off is ironically good. So,
yeah, exactly.
But no, what I like about his character is he's kind of, dumb, and he just doesn't really care, which I think makes him kind of, basically, his character is just...
His character is
just a bit of a drifter.
Yeah. It allowed him to go and make movies like Gotti. Think about it.
Yeah.
Thank God for this movie. Samuel L. Jackson as Jules Winfield. Is this Samuel L. Jackson's most famous role? Because obviously
his most famous role is Snakes on a Plane.
He can say lines like motherfucker, and he can say it with aggression, and he's got those curls and those weird sideburns. It is an iconic performance from him, and I don't know. Is it obviously barring Mace Windu? Is it his best role?
I think so, yeah, honestly, probably. He's a recurring character in Tarantino films, but I think his best role was as the narrator in Inglourious Basterds.
Mm-hmm. Yes, okay. Jackson received an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor as well. Uma Thurman as Mia Wallace. We talked about her before.
Yeah, we talked about her enough, yeah.
The only person with the actual Wikipedia page on her character. By the way, Uma Thurman, born on my birthday. Just want to say that. Yeah.
Should be called Uma Berthman.
Mm-hmm. As was Daniel Day-Lewis. So, I got all the correct actors.
Should be called Daniel Birthday Lewis.
Wow, that's great. Any famous actors born on your birthday, Michael?
Thierry Henry.
I said famous actors. Well, actually, given how he dives.
Yeah.
Given how he didn't. Do you know what happened in the World Cup qualifier between him and Ireland while he was playing for France? Do you know that?
No, I don't.
He handballed
Lil
it.
Pump.
What?
Lil Pump shares the same birthday as me. This is fantastic news.
That's great. Harvey Keitel as Winston Wolfe.
Sorry, I've got some more actually. I've got Robert De Niro and Sean Penn.
Oh, right, those are two very famous actors.
Pretty famous, yeah, so good.
Yeah. Harvey Keitel as Winston Wolfe, mysterious and intimidating cleaner who aids Jules and Vincent. Reservoir Dogs was obviously a role that Keitel played before, and he has now used this great performance and memorable performance in this movie to star in direct line ads in the UK. So
yeah, brilliant.
That's the main win for Harvey Keitel. Anyway, so Tim Roth as Ringo Pumpkin. Nothing really to say on this one. And Amanda Plummer as Yolanda / Honey Bunny. Those two, we haven't mentioned them, but they start the movie and end the movie. Again, there's nothing much to say about that. They're the ones that have the conversation about robbing restaurants and eventually decide to act upon that. Anything else to say? You want to talk about Ving Rhames as Marcellus Wallace?
No, I'm good.
No, you're good? Okay, yeah. menacing mob boss. He does say shit in a cool way, in a very cool way, which I'm sure Tarantino appreciated. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to sum up, Michael? Have a conclusion on this one?
All right, okay. So this film, it's good. It's, I would say, pretty darn good. But at the end of the day, I mean, the things that hold it back are that it's, I mean, you know, you can talk about things like it's not exactly an emotional roller coaster, but also, I mean, there's a lack of themes, and the plot is not exactly, let's say, clinical. But I think the one thing which does stand, you know, keep this film in good standing is the fact that it's a very famous director, Tarantino, at his peak doing his thing, and I think kind of you've got to give him credit for that. It's a lot like saying, for example, I mean, the best Wes Anderson film is got to be the best Wes Anderson film. You got to say, well, you know, it's a classic director doing their thing. You got to give credit to that, and also the fact that the dialogue really is very good, and it is, you know, I mean, I was not bored during this film, so I'll give credit there. And that's a pretty minor thing to say, but you know, I mean, the dialogue is really fantastic, and I think that's kind of the thing that Tarantino excels at. And I would say that probably, you know, I don't think he's done a better film since this. I actually go back and forth on whether or not I think that maybe whether or not Reservoir Dogs or Pulp Fiction is a better film. But yeah, I don't think he's actually done a better film since this. My question in terms of ranking is a very simple one. It's whether or not I'm going to put this film above or below Manchester by the Sea. Manchester by the Sea, of course, is a work of art in terms of the, you know, cinematography and the music and the emotion and the acting, and a lot of really good things. Having said that, I think Manchester by the Sea is not as enjoyable to watch. I'm going to say what I initially did. The only thing that's kind of made me doubt this is I think it sort of had a more drawn out some of the more negative aspects of this film as I've been talking. But I'm going to stick with where I had it, which is I'm going to put Pulp Fiction just above Manchester by the Sea in actually my number 10 spot, which is not bad at all, although it will probably make it an 8 out of 10, which I think is fair for this film. You know, it is a competent action film and a fun action film, but then on top of that you have the extra fun of the dialogue, which I think compensates for the slight meandering nature of the plot. What about you, Luke?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, yeah. Again, this movie is fun. The dialogue, the action, just the sequences, the set pieces. You know, it's all very entertaining. And here's the thing: I think we do need to focus on the fact that it is a good movie, and maybe I have been a bit too critical of it because, again, if you're comparing it to a masterpiece, then you know I'm going to have some words about that. It reminds me of Call Me by Your Name. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
When it obviously nominated for an Oscar for Best Picture, and we watched it, and especially me, I think I was like, this isn't like a Best Picture nominee. And so you set the bar, or you set expectations, and when it fails to meet those expectations, then you get critical. But yeah, again, it's just like, I don't know, Tarantino he just wanted to make a fun movie with, you know, references to past movies, and you know, just mix stuff up, you know, make it interesting. And yeah, he does his best at it. Like, it is Tarantino at his peak, doing his most Tarantino shtick. So I'm gonna give this probably. What did you give it, Michael? By the way.
I gave it I gave it a high 8 really, but it's ranked 10. I mean, the thing is, like, I've kind of got like a rough idea, so I got 9s above it, and 8s below it, so it's actually on the precipice. The
lack of themes, the lack of I don't want to say the lack of plot, but just the fact that the plot doesn't really do anything. I can only give this an 8, and it seems fair, maybe a bit harsh, but yeah, I'm just going to go with 8 out of 10 for Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Anyway, so
predict Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Michael.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, predicting Next Time in Hollywood. Let's go for 10. No.
This is Rotten Tomatoes score, by the way.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I know. Just saying it. Anybody's wondering what we're predicting.
Oh yeah. Because you didn't really make that clear. I don't know. I mean, I think it will probably do well. So let's go for. You know what? Heck, I'll be high for once. 95.
Wow, I was not going to go that high. I was going to go like 85. So yeah.
All right, fine. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Okay, so 95 to 85. So Michael, what are we doing next week?
We are doing The Fast. Oh, I think we've established this. Although this was a bit of an up and down one. We're definitely doing Fast and Furious 8. Yeah. I suggested Fast and Furious 7 as well because I think Fast and Furious 8 might be more sparse than you'd think. I don't know if we ever actually came to a conclusion on that one way or the other.
I said I have seen Fast and Furious 8 before, and I don't think it was sparse because it is really bad.
Was it sparse and furious?
Shit, I've already given my thoughts. Oh no. Yeah, I think we should just do Fast and Furious 8, honestly, because I think 7, we could do both, but I think it would be too much. Honestly, that's what I think.
That's fine, yeah, I don't mind either way. All right, so yeah, Fast and Furious 8, Fate of the Furious.
Yeah, yes.
That's what it's called, yeah.
Of course, yes.
Yeah. Have you got receipts?
No, not yet. We're going to... Lion King's next week.
All right, okay.
We'll do that. Yeah. Anyway, we have been selecting and reflecting this time on Pulp Fiction, because obviously 25-year anniversary, Tarantino, on one of the most famous movies of all time, even if we, or particularly me, don't think it lives up to its reputation. Anyway, join us next week for something that definitely won't, or will, I don't know, maybe. Fast and Furious 8. Who have you been, Michael?
I've been Michael.
I've been Luke. Thanks for listening, and goodbye.
Goodbye.